Welcome to Some Joyful Noises, a music podcast with no rhyme, rhythm, or reason. This show is a proud member of the Anazal Podcast Network. The reason we do this show is for community, not because any of us are music experts, but rather because we believe that music helps shape community, and that's something that's really important to all of us at the Anazal Podcast Network. I'm Joshua Noel. I am the producer of this show. I say producer and not host because this show has no host. It has no schedule. It has no format. You are just as much the host as I am. If you would like to find out how you could lead your own episode of Some Joyful Noises, then listen to the end of the show for an invitation to lead your own conversation on this podcast. We hope you enjoy this show with no rhyme, no rhythm, and no reason. Welcome to Some Joyful Noises, a music podcast with no rhyme, rhythm, or reason. I'm Joshua Noel, excited to be doing this one. This is just like the Anazal podcast dumping ground. So anytime someone in the Anazal podcast network, any of our leaders from other shows have like a music idea, we just jump in here and record something, and we extend the invitation to you guys listening. If you guys want to record your own episode, email us. There is no host to this show. We just kind of do stuff without any rhyme, rhythm, or reason. We just kind of record stuff, and today, this is almost like a personal journal for me. Currently in the season of Lent, my first time actually participating in Lent, joined the Lutheran Church over a year ago. I could have done it last year. Didn't feel like it. This year, I'm like, what? I'm going to try it. I started light, gave up Monsters, or just all energy drinks. I already had to do an open and close at work once, and it was difficult. But I'm doing that chosen suffering thing that Brandon Knight's been talking about on My Seminary Life. Check that out for Fish Fridays during the season. It's been great. He has some great content over there. I really recommend that for anyone listening who likes the network. Today, though, part of Lent is kind of reflecting on my own limitations, my own mortality. And for some reason, when I've been thinking about that in this season, I've been going over some of the big turning points in my life, like what I call the inflection points of my life personally. And I think that's probably a good practice for any of us. So maybe hearing me talk about it will help you guys think some too. And when I think about it, a lot of the major turning points in my life, in my head or spirit, whatever, I've tied to specific songs or albums. Not all Christian. Some are Christian, some aren't. So I wanted to go over, and these aren't, my favorite songs. These aren't like the most meaningful to me. These are just some that I have tied to some of the big moments in my life. So I'm going to go over 12 inflection points or 12 songs that are tied to inflection points in my personal life. It's really probably like 13 or 14. I'm going to cheat, but we're going to say 12 because that's a nice number, right? But these are moments in my life where I was changed forever. Who I am as a person is different after this moment. And these songs are attached to those moments for me personally. So when I hear them even today, I kind of am forced to reflect on them. And that's what I've been doing, a lot of reflecting in this season. I think music can serve as a good reminder for where we've been, how far we've come. So this is one, again, it's mostly for me, but hopefully this will help you think of some of your own inflection points to look back and meditate on your own life as well. And that's why music's important, right? Like this is something I'm able to share with you guys through music, something personal to me, and we're able to form community through music in a variety of ways. And this is just one of the ways we're able to do that. So kind of share what different songs have meant to us at different points in our life and reflect and share with one another our lives and to be part of one another's lives. And I know this is open to the internet, so I'm being really vulnerable here, but it's fine. I'm a podcaster. I'm used to it. So again, guys, remember, subscribe to the show. There's no schedule. You have no idea when an episode's going to come out unless you're subscribed. So you get the little notifications. So hit the little bell, hit subscribe, hit follow wherever you're at. So you get notifications when we release stuff. Since there's no schedule, that'll help you know when we have episodes. Also, rate and review Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, Good Pods, wherever you're listening. Hit rate, review. It just takes a few seconds. It helps the show out a lot. We need people to be aware of the show. Since we don't have a schedule, there's not like an easy way to grow momentum other than you guys just helping us out with it. Another way to do that is sharing. You can share it on your own social media if you want, but and that does help. I think it helps more than when you do it personally. If you find someone that that trusts you and you share it, they're more likely to click on that and listen to it if they're shared personally. So again, we really appreciate all that. I wanted to plug one song that one podcast I listened to recently that I really loved. Again, back to that season of Lent. Brandon Knight, he's been doing those Fish Fridays I mentioned on My Seminary Life. Recently, he did the episode of the Prayer of St. Patrick, that Friday before St. Patrick's Day. And man, that was such a good episode. It reminded me of why music means so much to me, because he was talking about the song that
Ren Collective did on St. Patrick's Prayer, and it's just got that folky vibe. And I'm all about folk, so I heard that, and he's got me excited about Ren Collective going back to folk, make Ren folk again, all that stuff he was talking about. I'm like, oh hell yeah, I love folk music, so I'm all about it, guys. I am so excited for this. So as we get into the main stuff here, I'm just gonna get what I mean by inflection points. Again, not my favorite songs. These aren't the most meaningful to me. There's a song, Simple Song by Passenger, Home by Passenger. Those are probably the most meaningful to me personally. But those aren't the songs I'm going to be sharing. They're not like the ones that mean the most to me. They're not my favorite songs. These are just songs that I've tied to specific moments in my life that are important to me because of the moments they're tied to. More so than even just what the song says or how good the song is or anything like that. It's just because of the moment it's tied to why it's so important to me. Some of them I enjoy also, and some of them are my favorite songs, but it's not why I'm sharing the songs that I'm sharing today. And sticking with having no rhyme, rhythm, or reason, I have the clips I'm going to be sampling for this episode. It looks like all of them are like mid-song. I don't know if it's because I was listening to them or if I have a specific part of the song I wanted to play. So when I share them, I really don't remember what part I'm sharing. I thought about checking it and making sure it was all right. And then I was like, hey, the whole point of this is having no rhyme, rhythm, or reason. First one, I have no reason for this. One memory that's like, if you watch Inside Out, there's like core memories that make who you are, and like, different part. Inside Out's a good movie. That's all. But one of my core memories, if you know what I'm talking about, is when I first started learning guitar. Again, I don't know guitar. I'm terrible. I have successfully played only one song, and it's the one I'm about to play for you. And it's not meaningful because like, oh, I did it. It's because I remember playing it for, I had a particular taste in music growing up. The Almost, Reliant K, Switchfoot, kind of that alternative rock Christian music, because I was only allowed to listen to Christian music. So I was pretty limited in the range of what I was able to listen to. I didn't discover how much I loved folk until much later in life. Later in life compared to where I am now. Hopefully I'm not that much later in my own life. Hopefully I have many years to go, but we'll see. Yeah, early on, especially high school, middle school, I loved the kind of alternative Christian styles of music. And my parents never really cared for it. They weren't really that interested. I think they wanted me to learn more the CCM music that they loved. And I think I tried some of those. It was just difficult for me because I never quite figured out chords. I can't explain to you. I figured out notes fine. I was actually pretty good at trumpet at one point, but I never figured out chords for some reason. But I was able to play decently the song Getting Into You by Reliant K, which for me, back then, and even today, is still one of those worship songs. I like the words and everything. It does mean a lot to me. But the moment I'm tying it to was when my granny heard me play that. And I know she only likes, she basically listened to old hymns. She liked Johnny Cash. She liked Dolly Parton, like older music. And I didn't expect her to really care. And my grandma is the most caring, loving person, is always proud of everybody all the time. Like she was great, and I miss her dearly. And now this song for me is tied to that moment where my granny was like, that was really sweet, really great. And she really loved it and listened to she wanted me to play the song on the radio too. She's like, oh, you did really good with that. And she enjoyed the song too. And it's like weirdly enough, when I think back on my granny who passed a few years ago, so many things come to mind. And I love her dearly. I miss her dearly. This song is really one of those things, that moment for me. I don't know why. I couldn't pinpoint exactly why. It wasn't a particularly huge event, but I know something in me was touched by that. So this, again, it's a big inflection moment in my life, even if it makes no sense, has no rhyme or rhythm to it, or reason. It is. So I'm going to play a little bit of that song for you guys here now.
When he looked at me and said, I kind of view you as a son, and for 1 second our eyes met, and I met that with a question. Do you know what you are getting yourself into? I'm getting into you because you got to me in a way words can't describe.
Yeah, it's just a beautiful song of how God reached out to us first, and I'm getting into God because he got into me first, and there's a spiritual thing. And yeah, it sounds like a love song. I know it's kind of cheesy, and maybe it shouldn't be a song that means a lot to me that I love, but that moment with my granny was important to me. So that song still has a special part in my heart. All right, next moment. This was also old Christian hymn, crazy, maybe it's not a great song. I actually, this is not one of my favorite songs, but I remember my dad was preaching Sunday. He was a part-time evangelist, and we were in Virginia. I think it's probably one of the churches my granny attended. It was a smaller church. It was the first time, I grew up Pentecostal. This was the first time I remember we didn't actually have a message. My dad prepares all these messages. He goes and he preaches them. But this time he went up. They played this song, These Are the Days of Elijah, right? Because it's an older church. So they played this hymn. And at the end, my dad got up and he said, hold up. Let me explain something. And my dad explained, in the course, it talks about the year of Jubilee. This is the year of Jubilee. It talks about what Jubilee is. What it means is freedom. And what Christ is saying to all of us is, you can be free indeed. My life verse is Galatians 5:1. Let's say life verse. My favorite verse, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter to me. It says, it is for freedom that Christ set us free. So you are free indeed. You are free indeed. It's for freedom. Christ set us free. Like, that's the big line in there for me. That was like, wow. It's just for freedom's sake. Like, Christ just cares about our freedom. And I think like that passion for freedom came from this moment, my dad preaching, where he stopped. He's like, you know what? Throwing out my sermon. We're going to play this song again. But before I play it again, here's what Jubilee is. Every 50 years, everyone was set free. All the slaves. Didn't matter how much you owed, how much debt you were in. And now as an adult, I'm like, what? Right? Like you're set free. That's what Jubilee means. It's about freedom. And he had him play this song again. Everybody fled the altars and were praying. And there was this deep spiritual movement of God. And something sat in me like, wow. Freedom. And I think that was the first time I've ever seen someone use their knowledge or intellect to explain something, and it makes something more meaningful, more spiritual. There's so many reasons I think that moment really changed me. But again, maybe it's not the best song, but it's one that I've tied to this inflection moment in my own life. So I want to play a little bit of it here for you guys. Play a little bit of it for you guys. Man, I don't know, something, and plus it's just so, it's an exciting sounding song, right? Like I think so. And I'm like, wow, the freedom. Yeah. Christ has come so that we can be free indeed. It's for freedom's sake that Christ set us free. And again, like just seeing that, understanding one word, reshaped that whole song to me. And for so many other people, now having that spiritual moment, it's a big moment in my life. Okay, next one, we're going to get out of Christian music for a little bit. Again, a little bit weird. One of my favorite places is Cumberland Island. I go camping there a lot. First time, I've gone so many times, I don't even know what time was what. I remember I've gone with my best friend TJ, who does a lot of other podcasts on the Noel Podcast Network. And one of the songs we listened to was You and I by Ingrid Michaelson. I also went with one of my other best friends once. We played that. We also, there's a lot of songs attached to Cumberland Island for me, because for me, this place, it's like a sacred place. I don't know. Something in my spirit is aroused by that place. Going to Cumberland Island has changed my life. Part of who I am, like my identity, somewhat is wrapped up in that place because of what it means to me, and just like the wildlife, the nature, the ocean, and just kind of seeing what nature has to offer without human impact. And I don't know how to explain, unless you have gone to a place that has a special meaning in your heart, that in that same way, that spiritual meaning, I don't know if I can explain it, but something about Cumberland is special to me in a way that words just don't suffice to explain. I've shared it with many people, my wife included. Me and my wife both love this place. It's special to her too, which is great. One of the songs attached to it is the Jurassic Park theme. I didn't want to play that here, but like every time you go, someone's always like, man, this place is just like Jurassic Park. Everyone thinks it looks like Jurassic Park. But one of the other songs, You and I by Ingrid Michaelson, that's kind of the song I have attached to several moments at Cumberland Island. And since that place is a moment that's really changed me, I'm including this as one of my inflection points. So I'm going to share a little bit of that song, You and I, by Ingrid Michaelson.
Parents' homes in the south of France. Let's get rich and give everybody nice sweaters and teach them how to dance. Let's get rich and build a house on a mountain, making everybody look like ants. From way up there, you and I, you and I.
Yeah, great song. I think that one's just a good song. It is just a song I really love. But even without just being a song I love, man, all these memories I have of me and TJ, or me and my other best friend, walking around the beaches of Cumberland Island, and especially some of the moments with me and my wife and me and TJ, where we definitely did not have alcohol on the island. And if we did, it wasn't rum. Had this like rum and Monsters energy drink. And it's like White Monster, Malibu, great combination. And a little bit buzzed. We're drinking on the beach, walking down, enjoying the beauty of God, just having a moment of pure relaxation, pure ecstasy. And we're belting out this song together. I got like a little speaker on my backpack, you know, on backpacking on the island on the beach. And TJ and I are just, let's get rich, and like just belting the song. I won't sing for you guys because like I have a terrible singing voice, but that moment of pure joy, and just like for me, joy is such an important thing, because like God is in those moments. You know, reading C.S. Lewis's Surprised by Joy, like those moments God intended for us to have that kind of experience of ecstasy. I'm saying the word wrong, forgive me, but that's just pure joy. That's like deeper than just happiness. I have that attached to these moments, and I know that thinking back on that, just reflecting on it, reminds me like there's more to this life than getting things right, making good podcasts, helping people. Like there's more than all of it. There's these moments of just joy where you can just be in that moment. Man, I need to go back to Cumberland Island. That's what I'm learning from this. All right, so let's go on to the next big inflection point for me. Another probably kind of a weird one. I had a moment where I went out when I was at college at UNCW. I went out to the beach by myself. Probably had a fight with my girlfriend at the time. We had a lot of fights. It was a toxic relationship. I just remember being alone, kind of being sad on the beach. And I think it was like right when I first started figuring out what Spotify is, or maybe it was Pandora. It was something. Different times. But I was on one of the radios listening to the kinds of music I like. And I never heard of Gungor back then. But the song played, Beautiful Things by Gungor. And I was in this really sad place. I was alone. It was probably, I don't know if it was the middle of the night, but I know it was dark and the moon was up, so I'm going to call it the middle of the night. But I did many walks at like 2 a.m. on the beach, so it's possible that it was literally like 2 a.m. But I'm on Wrightsville Beach, for those who know the North Carolina area. Walking up and down, this song plays, and I could feel my soul changing. Like my outlook in life. This is so weird. I just remember this, and nothing big happened. It was just like all of a sudden I went from like thinking we're all sinners, we're all made evil, everything's bad, and I heard the song going, but what if God made everything beautiful? What if it's not all sad and doom and gloom? So just that moment alone on the beach, hearing the song for the first time, something in me changed. So this is a big inflection point for me.
Life could really change at all. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of the dust. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of us.
Yeah, those words still speak to me. Despite, I know a lot of things have happened in Gungor. A lot of people in conservative or progressive side, they have different thoughts about them, and there are a lot of arguments. Whatever, I don't care about any of that. That song to me in that moment, it's still today. Just thinking about like God did. He took dust. He took nothingness out of the darkness. God created the heavens and the earth. Out of dust, he created man. Like he creates beautiful things out of nothing. I believe in creation ex nihilo, so out of nothing. I believe that he took the dirt, breathed into it, and we have life is beautiful because God made it beautiful. And we talk about the impact of sin, all that other stuff, but I think sometimes it's just good to remember that God makes beautiful things. And that song, again, the song actually is what created the inflection moment in that particular moment. So that's why it's a big inflection moment for me. Okay, moving on. I'm going to cheat and play 2 songs for the next moment. Told you I was going to cheat. When my papa died, my mom's dad, it was right after a big breakup stuff too. So I was just going through it in this time of life. I discovered folk music. This is when I discovered folk music. So it was my second go at college or something. The song, the album, All the Little Lights by Passenger. The whole album is really what's attached to this moment in my life, going through my first grandparent passing away and this breakup. And I was failing at college. Like my whole life felt like it was falling out. So this album is tied to might be the lowest moment in my life. And yes, I know I've like died before, but like to me, like this is, I don't know. I couldn't explain why I was so low in this moment, but I was. And then here comes sad existential music from Passenger that really ties into it. But if you know Passenger, he's that positive kind of existentialist. And I've talked about this on the show before, where like he doesn't just leave you like in the sad part. He leaves you with the kind of hope existentialists have, where you can create hope for yourself. And I don't necessarily buy into it, but the songs mean a lot. And I still love Passenger. He's my favorite artist. So I'm going to play two. I'm going to play first the one in the moment. This was the song that I tied to it. It's the titular song, All the Little Lights. And then later, after this, I'm going to play the song that I attached to it now, looking back, because I know what my Pawpaw's message would be to me, as opposed to what my message to myself was in the moment. So in the moment, here's the song I had tied to it from that album.
I went out to the bus stop in Edinburgh. One went out in an English pub. One went out in a nightclub when I was 15. Little lights in my heart in the dark. And he showed us the way. One lights up every time you feel love in your heart. One dies when he moves away.
And yeah, that for me, in the moment, that line in the song is why I attached it to that. One went out within me. So he's talking about like all the times that the little lights inside of him are going out. And then in the chorus, he says, he's explaining this kind of the metaphor. He just explained it for you. Unless you're dumb like me. Like, every time we feel love in our hearts, a light lights up within us. And I was thinking of like my papa, how much love he had for me and all the moments I had with him and all the lights that he put in me, how he lit up my world. And then I was thinking about the relationship, all the good times in the relationship and how I felt that love and it was a light. And now I lost this relationship. And there when a light went out within me. I lost my papa and a light went out within me. And just thinking of like how love is the meaning of life now. And in that moment, that's what I felt like. I felt like all these things that were lighting up my life were fading out. They were going dark. And that's why I felt like I was in such a dark place. And that song really put words to the feelings. And that was really helpful for me. When I look back on it now, and I think what my grandfather would have told me, same album has another song with a more, what I would say, a more positive message that puts words to the feelings I'm feeling now when I look back on this dark moment in my life. So, yeah, here's Life for the Living, again off that All the Little Lights album by Passenger.
Sparks flew like planes. Rain showed the rainbows in the oil stains. We all had new iPhones. No one had no one to call. Don't you cry for the lost, smile for the living. Get what you need and give what you're given. Life's for the living, so live it, or you're better off dead.
My grandpa, my papa, he was a silly guy. Mostly jokes. Like, if you know him, it doesn't feel right to just say he would say this really serious thing to me. He would. He'd throw some jokes in too. He made all kinds of jokes. A good friend of ours was the pastor. And he said his wife had to stop him from throwing his handkerchief in there after he blew his nose. He's like, hey, what? He would do it to me. And he would have. My papa would have. He was a funny guy. Pranks and stuff like that. That was his vibe. But also, he would say something like this to me. He was a very Christian man. This isn't a Christian song. He would have never listened to it. But I could hear him saying to me, he's like, hey, don't cry for the lost. Smile for the living. Your mom and dad, smile for them. Don't cry for me. Life's for the living, so live it, or you're better off dead. Like, I could hear my grandpa saying that. So yeah, this whole album is tied to this dark moment in my life, this inflection point, and I'm very thankful for that album because it's still to this day is so meaningful to me, and I still go back to it for a source of meaning. Yeah. So another inflection point for me in my life is going to go to. I'm trying to think of what I want to do next. I'm going to go to another different relationship I went through, a breakup, and this time it was my fault. I was very controlling. I created a toxic relationship, and I was very manipulative and just bad to this girl. And I heard this song at a church convention I was going to after that breakup. It's like, I don't. It's called No Longer Slaves by Bethel Music. It's very CCM, very conservative, not kind of theology I agree with. But this song, I remember hearing it and thinking, I can't sing this. So at the time, I was afraid to be in a relationship because I was afraid of myself. Now that I saw my own shortcomings, this season of Lenten, I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, that was so evil. And I saw my own sin. And I was afraid to be in a relationship, so I couldn't sing the song. And I did a lot of self-work over that year. And that's when I got in my car accident. And I remember I basically died. And I came back, and I remember there was a point when I had one of my brain surgeries going under that I was like, I'm actually not afraid at all of death or any of this. And I know that God's with me. I know that I've changed, and I know that I am in Christ. And then after that surgery and everything happened, at the time I was thinking of the verse. I wasn't thinking of the song. I was thinking of the Bible verse that says, God's not given us the spirit of fear, but of love, all that stuff. But then later I heard the song again, No Longer Slaves. I was like, hey, now I can sing it. And I sung it loud and proud. So for me, this is an inflection point where I went from where I was like, man, what a wretch am I, as Paul would say, right? And I'm afraid to be in a relationship. I'm afraid of the sin that's in me, my dark passenger for those who watch Dexter. To a point where I was like, I'm actually not afraid of anything, including myself or death, because I know that who I have in me is greater than anything that can stand against me. So, yeah, I know, being cheesy with all the Bible verses, but it's a big inflection moment. All those verses are relevant, I promise. But yeah, let me play that song that meant so much to me, hearing it before and after that year.
I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God.
All right. Yeah, and again, it's another one I really don't think is one of the best songs or anything, but it still means a lot to me because of how I reflected on my own self before and after that year. What's really weird is that when I heard it after the accident, it was actually at a church, my godfather's church. I was actually preaching. I was going to tell the testimony what God brought me through with everything. And, I was working being ordained, working being a minister. I've had a lot of changes in my theology. I was still more conservative back then, in that kind of Pentecostal conservative group. And I heard the song play. It was really full circle, kind of weird. After they played the song, I went up and I was like, my dad, and I was like, let me explain something to you about this. And I told them a little bit of my own testimony then and said, let's replay the song before I preach. And we played it again. And you had that spiritual moment again, the Spirit moving with that little bit of explanation, hearing those words again, no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I am dearly beloved. If you heard the last episode I did, right? And then to even go more full circle, what was weird is after my papa died, so this was after all of that, I inherited his Bible. And I remember going through and I couldn't find anything highlighted, underlined, and I was so disappointed. I wanted to be a ton of notes to be like, I could keep reading what my papa had to say, and I couldn't find it. It was very sad. But really weird. During the surgery and all that, I wasn't able to read with all my brain damage. Like I was literally not allowed to read or look at screens or anything. And I just remember random verses being stuck in my head. And since it was the only verse I could remember, I would just quote these verses myself. And one was Isaiah 27:1. It was like the Lord with his great and powerful and mighty sword will slay Leviathan, the serpent, Leviathan. I can't even remember it now, but for some reason it stuck in there for me at that moment. Because I remember studying it in Bible college, and Leviathan, ocean, all these things represent chaos, and God slaying the chaos. And for me, that was very comforting to think about that. So I went to open it while I was preaching this testimony after just doing the song and doing like what my dad did back then with These Are the Days of Elijah. And I just did something similar. Then I opened my papa's Bibles that I was going to preach out of. And there it was. The only thing he had highlighted, Isaiah 27:1, the Lord with his great and powerful sword. Actually, since I'm reflecting, and I can't remember exactly what it will say, I'm going to read it out of the King James Version, because that's what my papa's Bible was, the old King James Version, right? In that day, the Lord with his sore and great and strong sword will punish Leviathan the piercing serpent, even Leviathan that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea. Dragon, Leviathan, sea, all these things represent chaos. God is great and powerful, and he stops the chaos. He brings comfort. He brings peace. Remembering how I was able to have peace and have this validation and kind of closure to a lot of stories and a lot of moments in my life with that. And even though No Longer Slave to Fear is definitely not one of my favorite songs, Bethel Music is definitely not one of my favorite bands, but it was a big moment for me. So definitely a good inflection point for me. Next one I'm going to go over is Judah and the Lion. Sweet Tennessee. This one is after my accident and everything, when I was told, I might not be able to run, I might not be able to hike, all this stuff. Me and my brother decided to go on a hike because I might not be able to hike again, but watch me. I suffered. It was terrible. I suffered a lot as I kept trying to hike and run and stuff. And eventually, I believe God healed me and I was able to. But when my brother went hiking, we went to Tennessee. We went to this place, the Beauty Spot, which turns out is where people go to do proposals. And it was weird because it was me and my brother and a bunch of people proposing in a field of flowers while we were hiking. And yeah, anyway. But that's right after I just discovered Judah and the Lion. And we listened to the song because we were in Tennessee and we were hiking, called Sweet Tennessee. And it still has a lot of meaning to me. Like that, it's not a meaningful song, but it's attached to a meaningful moment. And I love Judah and the Lion. So we're going to play it. Yeah. And for those who don't know, I was born in Tennessee, so it also kind of allowed me to tie to my roots. So being there with my brother in Tennessee, hiking when I might not be able to hike again, going back to my roots, discovering Judah and the Lion, it was a big moment for me. And it reminded me that for a long time I was shameful that I was from Tennessee, that I was an American. We're man, I should be English like C.S. Lewis and really educated. And I still want to be educated. But I'm also more comfortable that I am from Tennessee. My family is from Kentucky, from the hills of Virginia. My papa, to my mom's disgrin, would sometimes call himself a hillbilly. And I'm that is my roots. Appalachian, Kentucky, Tennessee. Some part of me is tied to all that. Some part of me is more than that too. But being okay with that and learning to be tied to my roots was it's a big moment. And being able to hike again was a big moment. And my brother being there. So yeah. Sweet Tennessee is a song that I have tied to a pretty huge moment in my life. I don't think the song's that deep. I really just don't, but it's a good song. It's fun. Next one is when my Pepaw died. So there's the two moments here. One, again, TJ went with me. We were supposed to go hiking. We couldn't figure out where we were supposed to hike, so we just kind of stopped the car and laid on a dock and just literally, this is so weird. We literally listened to Johnny Cash all night, one night. I was in a dark place then too, and TJ was just there with me. He was just being present. He didn't talk me through anything. He wasn't, whatever. We were just listening to Johnny Cash, sitting on a dock. Eventually, some random drunk people showed up and started shooting guns off above us into the lake because they didn't know we were there. And TJ was like, "Whoa!" So it was a frightening moment. And I learned a lot of the Johnny Cash music because my papa loved it, and I knew my Pepaw loved it too. Then when my Pepaw passed away, we needed to pick a song from him. A few different songs. We had a slideshow, and I wanted to make sure there was one from Johnny Cash. And even though this is a cover that Johnny Cash did, it's one that I know my Pepaw loved, and it's one we played at his funeral that I don't know, every time I hear it, I just think about, I think I'll see him again. I'm not 100% sure what my doctrine on heaven, hell, any of that is, but I think I'm going to see my Pepaw again.
We'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day.
Yeah, Johnny Cash, We'll Meet Again. I believe it. I think about my pawpaw, my granny, my Pepaw. My granny and Pepaw both died in the same year. It was rough. I remember hearing that at his funeral. I still think about all of them, and I'm like, we'll meet again. Don't know when, don't know where. We'll meet again some sunny day. Yeah, so it's a big moment for me, and I'm just thankful that Johnny Cash was there to get me through it. The next one's a little bit happier, and this isn't in order of my life. My Papa and my granny both met my wife. My Papa never did, unfortunately. He would have loved her. They both have a very similar sense of humor. But I remember when I first started dating my wife, Tiffany. We would just ride around in the car together and listen to music, and I was shared different music we both loved, and it turns out that we have a pretty different taste in music sometimes. Some stuff we both love still. But I remember playing this because it was one that I was like, I really love this. And back then, Mumford & Son played at gas station, but I didn't know anybody who just listened to Mumford & Sons like I did. Because, I just discovered folk music not that long ago, and most people I knew only listen to Christian music. But I remember listening to this with her, and we enjoyed it right in the car. And then I remember listening to it later going, man, actually, I kind of want to believe this girl loves me because kind of love her. And yeah, this is a good song.
I don't even know if I believe. I don't even know if I believe everything you're trying to say to me. Say something like you love me, unless you wanna move away from the noise of this place.
Yeah, just remember sharing that with her and like, oh wait, she listened to that with me, and we talked about why I liked it, and it was such a good moment. I actually think she was the first person, because the circles I grew up in were all Christian and only listen to Christian music. And then afterwards, when I meet non-Christian friends, they only listen to like hard metal or rock, and I was like, I just couldn't get into it, or rap. And I like some rap, but I mean, harder for me. This was one of the first moments I remember being like, oh, there's someone who I can actually talk to about music I enjoy and have meaningful discussion. And I think that's when I first started falling in love with my wife, like for real. At the very least, that's what I have tied to that moment. It was that song "Believe" by Mumford & Sons. Other moments with my wife. Right afterwards, we were both into Ed Sheeran back then, and he just released the Divides album. And every time a particular song would play in the restaurant, because I explained to her why this is what she means to me. Every time we would play that, we worked at Domino's together. If it played on the speaker or on the radio, whatever, I would go up to her and hold her, and we'd dance a little bit. And probably not appropriate for the workplace, but I really didn't care. I loved this girl, still love her to death. And it ended up being our first dance at our wedding as well. So I'm going to play this for you too, because it's, again, big inflection moment, changed my life.
Every night I'll kiss you, you'll say in my ear, oh, we're in love, aren't we? Hands in your hair, fingers and thumbs, baby. I feel safe when you're holding me near. Love the way that you conquer your fear. You know hearts don't break around here. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I still think it's a beautiful song. Still love it, even if I've kind of moved away from Ed Sheeran a little bit in my own music taste. But that album will always have a special place because of how we shared it and how that was our wedding song, right? And yeah, she is an incredible woman. If you know anything about her life, which y'all probably don't, yeah, it still amazes me how she conquers everything she is ever faced with. She's such a strong, powerful, courageous, wonderful woman. And I am so blessed. And I know hearts don't break around here. I've gone through a lot of heartbreak, but we're always there for each other. And yeah, so that sounds a good one. And then yeah, the next one, also with my wife, last year, I remember we were riding in the car together and we found a song that we both loved and belted out together. Not a particularly meaningful song, but I just reminded and rekindled that spark, that first spark from way back when we were riding in the car, listening to Mumford & Sons and Taylor Swift and all the songs that she liked too. And it just kind of rekindled that feeling of like, oh yeah, that's right. This is my friend that I ride around with and listen to music. Like, she's obviously more than a friend, but she's also that. And having that rekindled was particularly meaningful. So thank you, Noel Khan. Dial drunk.
Get along. Traffic lights and the transmitter radio. I don't like it when they threw me in the car. I gave your name as my emergency phone call, honey. Yeah. Ring and ring, even the cops thought you were on for hanging up. I dialed drunk, I died drunk, I'll die for you.
Yeah. And we both still will listen to this one in the car from time to time and belt it out. I do love it. No Con is one of my favorites. That is one of my favorite songs, even though, again, not particularly meaningful, but it's so good. And just kind of the wordplay there of like, I'll dial drunk, I'll die a drunk, I'll die for you. Like, yeah, good wordplay, good fun. I love No Con as an artist. And I love having those moments with my best friend and wife. And it's still, those moments are what makes life meaningful. So it's a current inflection point, I guess. But yeah. One more I wanted to share is I started accepting different theology, started growing in my own thinking, a spiritual journey, right? And one of them was kind of looking at the Bible and seeing, like parts where it's like, just as we all died in Adam, we're all alive in Christ. I'm like, so we're all alive, and then I'll say, and then thinking about like, if God is all powerful and He made us all to be with Him, it makes no sense that we wouldn't one day be with Him. like the all-powerful being in the universe should bring us all back to him. I'm not going to get into a theological argument with you guys right now. We have a lot of people who disagree with me on the network. It's fine. But coming to this theology and then listening back to one of my favorite hymns growing up, I'm like, oh, this has a whole different meaning to me now, and I love it. So I kind of attached this song, this old hymn to it, and I'm going to play the Casting Crowns version, because Casting Crowns, even if I disagree with a lot of their stuff, they still have nice voices, pretty voices.
And when we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. And when we all see Jesus, we'll sing and shout the victory.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that I also started falling more to like the Christus Victor atonement model, where I'm like, I actually don't think that Christ paid the penalty for us, that we're all going to be punished by sin. I don't believe that version of atonement model personally. I think Christ's death matters only so that he could conquer death and could conquer hell in the grave. The death isn't what mattered. The resurrection, to me, is where we find salvation, when Christ conquered sin, death, in the grave. That we all can now, just as we participated in the defeat of Adam in this life, we get to participate in the victory over death, sin, in the grave in the next life, thanks to Jesus. Hearing that, when we all see Jesus, we'll sing, we're going to shout for victory. And I love that when we meet again with my papa and my granny and my papa and you listeners, and we're in heaven, and I'm like, when we all see Jesus, what a day of rejoicing it will be. That song took a whole new meaning for me. So I'm attaching that to that kind of inflection moment where I've changed my theology to be more Christus Victor, more the universalist, kind of Christian universalist, I would say, not just universalist. I still think Jesus is the only way, but I just think everyone is going to be eye to eye with Jesus one day. So that's where I'm at. We're all going to have to accept him eventually. And the sooner you do, I think the better your life is. Like, I don't think it's like, oh, you're sin, you need to repent so you can be a Christian and behave the right way. I think, no, being in Christ is the best way to live. And God wants us all to have that. And eventually we will. It's just, how long do you want to wait for your best life? I want to have it now. I want to be in Jesus now, because that is my best life, is in Christ, in that freedom that comes with the year of Jubilee. We are in the year of Jubilee. It is for freedom. Christ set us free, and we can all participate in that now. Or we can wait till later. But I think, let's have it now. Let's have freedom. Let's have love. Let's have joy, peace, kindness now. Why not? It's great. I love being saved. I love being a Christian. I love Jesus and being all the relationships I have. I'm so happy and blessed and loved. And even as I reflect on all these moments of death, of loss, of my own shortcomings and sin and the toxic relationships I caused, I also reflect to go, you know what? Hallelujah. I have a great God, great Jesus, and great relationships. And I am so blessed and so excited for when we meet again and we all get to heaven. Someone needs to do a mashup of when we meet again and when we all get to heaven. I don't think people do mashups with hymns, do they? Maybe. If they do, they should. That'd be a good one. But yeah, that's where I'm at. These are some of the moments. For those who know, last year I had a shooting at my house. My wife and dog both almost died. So I'm currently in another inflection moment where I can feel my life changing. I'm not playing a song for that because I feel like it's not really appropriate till I look back and see it from hindsight for what it is. I think it'll probably end up being Passenger's Simple Song, which is one of my favorite songs, but it's also one of those that just reminds me, sometimes we don't have the words. Sometimes we just need a simple song. So I like that song a lot. And that's what I think is probably going to be this current inflection moment. The song that I attach to it, but I'm not sure. I do know that I attach a lot of moments to very specific songs. And these 12 or 13 or 14 are some of the ones that really helped get me through. And I hope you guys, when you think about your own things and you think of music, if you think of a time in your life that was really meaningful for you and it makes you think of a song, stop and listen to it. Stop and meditate on it. Just doing this exercise for this podcast and doing it in my own life during the season of Lent has really helped me a lot. So I think it's good for all of us to think back on our own inflection points and some of the music attached to it and what it means to us, and to share with one another so we can have community together. But yeah. So that was this episode. Probably a weird one, but that's fine. This is a podcast, no rhyme, rhythm, or reason, so it is what it is. Coming soon, though, when the Mumford & Sons album drops later this month in March, and I have some time to sit with it for a while. I don't want to do right after the album. Sit with it a while. I want to do a review of both Lumineers, Automatic, as well as the new Mumford & Sons album. So I'll review both of them together is kind of my plan. At some point, again, it's not scheduled. There's no rhyme, rhythm, or reason to this show, which is why you need to subscribe if you want to know when episode to drop. So if you want to hear that one, if you want to hear the one I'm going to do with Brandon soon, subscribe so you get those notifications, hit the bell, all that stuff, so you get a notification when episode to drop, because there is no schedule. Please rate and review our show so that other people will see it whenever we do decide to drop stuff eventually. That stuff really helps, whether you rate and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, Podchaser, wherever you can. It helps. Wherever you listen, do something. And then, of course, share. You can share it through social media, or you can share it personally, one-on-one. I found that if you share it with someone personally, give them a recommendation, they're more likely to listen, and you're more likely to have more meaningful conversations. So I think just kind of share it with somebody personally. Again, this was very personal to me, very vulnerable, but I don't care if you share my life with total strangers, because otherwise I wouldn't be doing a podcast. So I know what I got myself in for. Anyway, guys, I hope you can all join us in continuing to find more music to sing along to together, to ride in the car, blast in together. If you want to make your own episode, email us. I'd love to have hear what you guys are reflecting on and the music that's meaningful to you. And of course, keep joining us as we continue to make more joyful noises, some joyful noises together. Until next time, guys.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Some Joyful Noises, a proud member of the Anazal Podcast Network. You can listen to other Anazal podcasts with the link that's down below in this show's description. If you have ideas for this show or would like to lead one of these episodes, then you can email us at anazalministriespodcast@gmail.com and pitch an idea to us, and we'll talk about it and see whether or not we can make it work for you to lead your own episode. We hope to hear from you soon, and that you'll help us keep it noisy.